I, 38M, have 2 kids, Mark, 13M, and Lily, 11F. To give some context, Lily is really spoiled by my wife, Sarah, 37F. Ever since Lily was little, Sarah has been overly indulgent with her, letting her stay up late, buying her whatever she wants, and pretty much excusing all of her behavior, no matter what. It's made Lily feel entitled, especially when it comes to Mark. She doesn't have much respect for his privacy and constantly tattles on him for the smallest things, knowing her mom will take her side. At first it was small stuff. Mark didn't make his bed, or Mark stayed up too late. But over time, it escalated. She started reporting anything that seemed even a little bit off. Mark didn't say hi to me when he got home, or Mark left his shoes in the hallway. It's like Lily has a mental list of everything Mark does wrong, and no matter how trivial, she'll run straight to Sarah to tell on him. Mark is 13 and, like most teens, values his privacy and independence. He spends time with his friends and is starting to navigate more personal parts of his life. But Lily, with her constant monitoring, makes it impossible for him to have any space. There's no escaping it. And the real breaking point for Mark came when Lily somehow found out about his crush on a girl at school. I honestly don't know how she found out. Mark didn't tell her, and he definitely didn't want her to know. He was on the phone with a friend, but Lily must have overheard something. The next thing he knew, Lily was making comments about it, like, "So you like that girl, huh?" Mark was mortified. He hadn't shared that with anyone, let alone his 11-year-old sister. And then, of course, Lily went around telling all their friends at school. Mark felt completely humiliated. When Mark tried to talk to Sarah about it, she dismissed his feelings, telling him to stop being dramatic. That's when Mark decided he needed space. He couldn't take it anymore. So he started avoiding Lily as much as possible. The issue really came to a head the other day. I came home from work and saw Mark sitting on the couch with Lily. They were watching a show, and I thought maybe they were getting along. But then I realized they were watching a show Lily liked, not one they both enjoyed. Lily was bossing Mark around about how he should be watching it, or how he was sitting too far from the TV. Mark got frustrated and stormed off to his room. Lily, of course, immediately started crying, but it was so obviously fake I could see right through it. She ran to Sarah, saying Mark was being mean to her, and that's when Sarah went upstairs to talk to Mark. I stopped her before she could go up, telling her I'd handle it. I went upstairs to check on Mark, and he finally opened up to me. He told me that it wasn't just about the show, it was everything. He couldn't trust Lily anymore because of her constant snitching and invading his privacy. He told me he was tired of being made to feel like he was in the wrong, no matter what he did. The final straw was Lily outing his crush to everyone at school. He said he couldn't have any peace or privacy when she was always watching him and reporting back to Sarah. Now, Mark is refusing to be around Lily. He's 13 and he deserves to have some space. But Sarah is pushing me to punish him for ignoring her, saying he's being mean to Lily by not spending time with her. She's even giving me the silent treatment now. She's upset that I'm not backing her up on this, and that I'm not punishing Mark for not getting along with Lily. Every time I try to talk to her, she shuts down, won't engage, and just gives me the cold shoulder. Honestly, I'm feeling caught in the middle. I understand Sarah wants them to get along, but I don't think Mark should be forced to spend time with Lily if it's just going to be another situation where she invades his privacy and tattles on him. He needs boundaries, and he needs to be able to have a private life, especially as a teenager. But it feels like Sarah doesn't see it that way. She thinks I'm being too lenient with Mark and not holding him accountable. Update. I decided to have a serious conversation with Sarah about her favoritism toward Lily and how it's been hurting Mark. I explained how dismissing Mark's feelings and excusing Lily's behavior has created a toxic environment where Mark feels unsupported and disrespected. I brought up specific examples, like Lily outing his crush and how it humiliated him, and her constant tattling that makes him feel like he has no privacy. Unfortunately, the conversation didn't go as I hoped. Sarah completely denied showing favoritism and instead started doubling down, saying that Mark was just being a bad child and that his avoidance of Lily was mean and immature. She kept defending her actions, saying she's only trying to keep the peace and make them get along, but it was clear she wasn't willing to acknowledge her role in the problem. No matter how much I tried to stay calm and explain where I was coming from, she refused to see my point of view. Eventually, I realized we weren't getting anywhere, and I didn't want the conversation to escalate into a fight, so I left the room and went upstairs to talk to Mark instead. When I got to Mark's room, I sat down with him and told him the truth, that I love him, and that I know things have been unfair to him. I admitted that I haven't done enough to protect him from the situation with his mom and sister, and I promised him that I'm going to do better. I told him I see how much he's been hurting, and that his feelings are valid, even if not everyone in the house is acknowledging them right now. Mark seemed surprised but relieved. He told me how much it's been weighing on him and how alone he's felt lately. It broke my heart to hear how much he's been holding in, but I reassured him that he's not alone and that I'm in his corner. I told him I'd work on fixing the issues with Sarah and Lily, but in the meantime, I'm going to make sure he feels supported and respected. I know this is only the beginning, and it's going to take time and effort to fix what's been broken. But I refuse to let Mark feel like he's second best in his own home anymore. He deserves better, and I'm committed to giving him that. I'll talk to my wife and have an ultimatum. If she does not agree to treat Mark fairly and punish Lily correctly, then we will have a divorce. But still, I might not go that way since, as I said before, I don't want to split 50/50 since I'm in a bad financial state. Can you guys please tell me a way to take care of this? And I don't even have enough money for a good lawyer. I've been reading through all the feedback and really taking it to heart. This whole situation has made me realize just how unfair things have been for Mark, and I knew I couldn't keep ignoring it. So I sat Sarah down for another serious conversation. I told her straight up, this can't keep going the way it has. Mark deserves to feel safe and respected in his own home, and Lily needs to be held accountable for her behavior. I really tried to get through to her, to make her see how much this was hurting our son, but she just got defensive. She kept insisting that I was overreacting, that Mark was just being difficult, and that I was the one playing favorites. I told her this wasn't about taking sides, it was about making sure both of our kids were treated fairly. But no matter what I said, she wasn't willing to listen. Things got heated. She accused me of turning against our daughter and making her out to be a villain. I told her that wasn't true, but that Lily's behavior couldn't just be brushed off anymore. Sarah refused to see it that way. After going in circles, she finally snapped, packed a few things, and left the house, taking Lily with her. She didn't say where she was going, just that she needed a break from all of this. Honestly, that night with Mark was the most peaceful one we've had in a long time. We ordered pizza, watched movies, and just hung out. I could actually see the stress lift off his shoulders. He laughed, he joked around, and for the first time in weeks he wasn't walking on eggshells. That hit me hard. I didn't realize just how much he'd been carrying until I saw what he was like when he didn't have to. Sarah came back the next day, but she hasn't spoken to me since. She's been giving me the cold shoulder, and Lily is following her lead, acting like Mark and I are the bad guys. Later that evening, Lily came to me. She seemed hesitant, but finally said, "Mom is mad at you. Why are you favoring Mark over me?" That question stung, because it showed just how deep this problem runs. I took a deep breath and told her, "Lily, I'm not favoring Mark over you. I love you both. But sometimes, when things aren't fair, we have to fix them. Mark has been feeling really hurt, and I need to make sure he's okay too. That doesn't mean I love you any less." She didn't say much after that, just looked at me, clearly thinking. I don't know if I got through to her, but at least she listened. It's tense, and honestly, I don't know where things are going from here, but I do know one thing. I'm not going to let Mark feel like he's second best in his own home anymore. I can't force Sarah to change, but I can make sure my son knows he's not alone in this. Over time, things started to shift in small, unexpected ways. Without Sarah constantly stepping in, I found myself connecting more with Lily. We'd talk, play games, and slowly I began to understand her better. Beneath all the behavior was just a kid trying to be seen and heard in her own way. As Lily and I grew closer, she and Mark began to reconnect. It wasn't some dramatic reconciliation, just small, simple moments. They'd joke around, share snacks, and little by little, the tension between them eased. Watching them laugh together again felt like something we'd all been missing. But Sarah noticed. Instead of feeling relieved, she grew more distant, like she was watching something slip away. The silence between us stretched, thick and uncomfortable. Then, one evening, it all boiled over. We were in the living room, me, Mark, and Lily, just talking and laughing about something trivial. Sarah walked in, her face tight with frustration. Without much warning, she exploded, yelling, accusing me of turning the kids against her. She started throwing things, a lamp, some books, shouting that no one in the house cared about her, that she was the villain in her own family. It was overwhelming. I stayed calm, trying to get her to talk instead of shout, but she was too far gone in that moment. Eventually, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her, saying she was done with all of us. Since that night, the house has been quiet, peaceful even. Mark and Lily are closer than ever, and while things aren't perfect, there's a sense of calm we didn't have before. I don't know what's next with Sarah. Maybe she'll come back, maybe she won't. But for now, I'm focusing on Mark and Lily, on making sure they feel heard and supported. What do you think about the story? Here are some popular comments.
Kind of weird you've been focusing on everyone except the bully who's causing the drama. I would try talking to/punishing Lily. It's her problem, go to her with it. Make her understand that this isn't just about poor Mark. She might get a sadistic thrill out of knowing she's ruining someone's life, but also about her own future being at risk. Explain to her that Mark doesn't want to be around her, not because he's mean or in any other way bad or wrong, but because she is choosing to be someone who nobody would want to be around. Emphasize that out in her adult life, she won't be getting spoiled by a mommy. She will get whatever she earns out of the world, and if she earns enemies, life will be harsh. She'll be unable to keep an apartment, a job, a BF/GF. If she doesn't learn to be less of a POS within the next few years, it will become habit, and she will be all but permanently stuck a jerk and be disliked by many, many people for the rest of her life. She needs to see the value of developing a personality that will allow her to succeed and be happy in life.
First, I'm so sorry you and especially your son are going through this. No child should be treated better than another, ever. And this is what your wife is doing. I need to ask something. Was your daughter born premature? Was there a health scare while she was in the womb or after birth? I'm trying to wrap my head around why your daughter is coddled so by your wife, and most times it's due to a health scare or premature birth. IMHO, I think you should insist on counseling, individually, you and your wife as a couple and as a family. Stand your ground, though. Your son should not be punished because he wants privacy, especially from a sibling who not only tattles on him to her mother, but seems to be the family gossip and is loving it because your wife never punishes her.
Well, let's start with a big good job, Dad. Seriously, boys don't always get this support, and it can lead to some pretty awful things. But let's be real, 5 years is an eternity to a 13-year-old. Look into programs like BetterHelp and see what your health insurance covers. Also, make sure Mark has privacy. And maybe soundproofing so little Miss Nosy can't hear. Also, start taking him out for dad-son hang time, hikes, pottery, archery. Just figure out what he likes and pick an activity that sounds fun for you as well. For a divorce, AI says, in California, you can get free or low-cost help with divorce through the Family Law Facilitator's Office, FLF, and the Self-Help Center. I would also consider going to your local librarian and asking for help in finding resources. Librarians are very well trained and know how to find the answers to just about anything. For your daughter, you may want to start taking her on daddy-daughter dates. Build a rapport with her as well. It may do her some good.
Remind Sarah that she isn't backing you up. Additionally, ask Sarah what she'd do if Mark was always tattling on Lily, doing unkind things to Lily at school. Perhaps once/month you and Lily could spend a few hours alone together, having lunch and seeing a movie of her choosing, and Sarah and Mark do the same thing. You'd both get to know your children in different ways. I had 5 siblings. Our parents took each of us to dinner on our birthdays for one-on-one time.
What your wife is doing is ensuring that the second Mark turns 18, he will leave and never look back. She will not have any relationship with him. He will go no contact, completely and totally. I know you've said that you can't afford to split 50/50, but I would see if maybe you can find a family member to stay with Mark, maybe at least for a little while, because obviously your wife needs help, but she refuses to admit that. I would say counseling, but I can almost guarantee that she'll say no.
I'm worried about this little boy. If he isn't feeling safe and protected at home, where will he go to find it? This family needs counseling. Maybe you and your wife should sit down and make rules together and decide punishments as well. Then, tell both of them as long as someone isn't bleeding or about to do something majorly wrong, you are no longer going to allow them to tattle on one another.
When my younger sister, by 17 months, big Catholic family, wouldn't leave me alone, I finally told her if she didn't, I would come to her room in the middle of the night and cut a chunk of her hair out at the scalp where she couldn't cover it up. I told her I didn't care if I was beaten for it or they shaved my fucking head. I was done. She pretty much left me alone as a teen. Fast forward, and she is a marriage and family counselor with 2 masters. I am a lowly wine grape farmer. She loves to denigrate me, making fun of my learning disability, blaming me for not standing up against our parents, even though our mother treated her as the golden child, yelling about my hourly wage compared to hers when I did landscape design. There's more, but you get the picture. I went no contact on her birthday, November 9, 2016. Not having to deal with her bullshit anymore has been blissful.
Consider marriage counseling for you and Sarah. Clearly, you aren't getting through to her, so talking to an unbiased third party and getting their take on things could help open her eyes. But truly, the way she refused to talk about it, how she stormed out to punish you and is now back but ignoring you, I don't know how you can put up with that long term and be very, very, very clear with your daughter and make sure you're in constant communication with her, because it seems like your wife is very manipulative and is doing her best to turn your daughter against you.
Good Lord, my bestie has a younger sister like this. Her mom favored the youngest over my friend and her older sister. It was awful. Dad thankfully did not and took zero crap from the little brat, which his wife fought tooth and nail. LB decided to call CPS on her father when she was 13 to get revenge on him. After being grounded, she stole her older sister's babysitting of several $100s. And his wife did nothing to defend him. Trust me, the man was not abusive. That backfired spectacularly as Dad finally decided to divorce his wife, and since the home was in his name only, inherited from his family, his wife and the brat had to leave. He kept the older 2 girls, which was their decision. Friend and her older sister never have anything to do with baby sis and her 5 now grown brats. Little sister has sued both sisters several times and has called CPS on them as well to try to get her share of Dad's sizable estate. He specifically cut her and her kids out of his will, and Mom's money was much less. She has never owned up to her horrible behavior.
As parents, our real goal is to raise healthy, considerate, well-developing adults who have the good coping skills and a great capacity to love and be loved. Lily clearly loves you, and Mark is finally going to be all right because you are stepping up, Dad. I wonder if perhaps you and Mark and Lily can come together to agree on family rules for behavior, rules that they can all agree are fair to everyone, and to treat each other equitably. Your wife seems to currently see love as a zero-sum game, that it's impossible for everybody to be treated well and thrive, when that's just not true. Love and equity creates more love. Stop trying to convince her, because she'll see that as one person losing out to another person. Maybe be curious with your wife. What is it in your wife's past that makes her feel that Lily needs this extra protection and consideration? The book series, Parenting with Love and Logic, has really wonderful ways to teach children to self-regulate and self-discipline, and it helps parents to get on the same page with discipline and what goals they really want their children to achieve. It has made all the difference with our parenting.
I know this is days late, but maybe it'll be seen and be of some help. It honestly sounds like therapy is in order. I know, it's such a cliche answer, but if there's a way to get everyone into individual therapy and family counseling, then I think this situation can be resolved. I know you mentioned not being well off financially, but there should be some state-funded counseling where your bill is on a sliding scale based on income and expenses. Wishing you all the best.
This isn't a kid problem. This is a you and your wife problem. Are you, without realizing, showing favoritism towards your son, and then your wife is trying to make things up to the daughter by favoring her? You and your wife have created a nightmare-inducing toxic household. You are both spending way too much time micromanaging your children, who clearly need some space away from both of you so that they can figure out who they are as individuals and who they are to each other. You are the asshole here. Your wife probably is too.
I think all older siblings have had their younger siblings make up stuff and tattle on them. Why didn't Mark correct his sister's behavior when they were younger? I'm not blaming him. I'm just thinking that maybe he's too nice a kid for his own good. EE. When I was a kid, my younger sister told my mom that I had hit her, even though I hadn't. I got scolded by my mom. And immediately afterwards, I hit my sister several times. Because I had already been scolded, so I might as well do the crime. My sister never made anything up again.
I'd be pretty blunt with your wife that the evening without her was the most peaceful you've had in years, and when she returned, you didn't feel happy to see her but stressed out. Tell her you'd like to be happy when you see her. Try to work together rather than saying only she must fix herself. Acknowledge that a lot of this was you not parenting and being an equal partner because it was easy. Say you'll change as well, and then actually do it. I think one good thing you can immediately implement are parent/kid dates. You and your son go out and do something together, nothing fancy, Monday evenings for an hour or so, while your wife and daughter do something. And then Tuesdays, you and your daughter go out together while your wife and son go do something. Each kid gets a chance at equal time and can see the fairness, and your wife can't complain about favoritism or you abandoning Lily. Plus, you'll have a shot at bonding with Lily and getting her to see there are other ways besides her mom's. Solo time with your wife would also be beneficial. Even if it's just doing something neutral, it's a lot harder to fight for someone you don't like. And if she doesn't like you and you don't like her, the battle is lost before it's done.
Oh, wow, I have kids the same age and same genders. I can really see this happening as I connect with my daughter. However, I also love my son very much and do step in. It's very easy to raise a spoiled brat if you're not careful. It sounds like that's what's happening with Lily. Number one, teach her to stop snitching. If it doesn't involve her and no one is getting hurt, then tell her to mind her own business. If my daughter did what yours did in regard to the crush, all hell would break loose and she would be put in her place. That's just disrespectful to your son.
Your wife is delusional. Maybe seek family counseling and let the counselor point out what's wrong in the household. But she probably won't accept it from them either. No older brother wants to hang out with their younger sister. Younger sisters are brats and instigators. I know. I am one, the younger sister. I have outgrown the brat part, lol. I followed my brothers around and was constantly on their nerves and starting stuff, then tattling for them, retaliating. Have you tried to discipline your daughter for her behavior? You also need to make a budget and, if necessary, a separate bank account. If finances aren't good, then she should not be buying stuff, only needs. Good luck and keep supporting your son and letting him know he is loved.
To be fair, first, I would take Lily to one side, as you have done with Mark, and tell her how you feel about her behavior and how you will be responding to it in future. Give her the chance to listen to you and do better. She needs to know that regardless of what mommy thinks, you are disappointed with her behavior. Then I would just start telling Lily off as you see fit. When she tells tales on Mark, tell her she is old enough to stop being childish and dismiss whatever she is saying. Keep an eye on how late she goes to bed, and the next time she tries, Mark didn't go to bed on time last night, you can retaliate with, well, neither did you on X night, and we didn't punish you for it, so if we are going to tell Mark off now, it's only fair we tell you off too, isn't it? do the same anytime she tells on him for something she herself gets away with. When she tries to make Mark do stuff he doesn't want to, like the TV, tell her she has 10 more mins than she has to spend an hour doing something Mark wants to do, otherwise she needs to stop bossing him about. Tell your wife to stop spending on unnecessary things because you are having financial troubles, and every spare penny is going to be saved up to start paying for marriage counseling from now on. That's one way of letting her know you are serious enough to think about divorce without having to jump straight to divorce. Anytime she spends frivolously, tell her she clearly doesn't care about your feelings or making it work if she would rather get her hair done than get your marriage sorted. You really should save up and go to counseling, as it may work. An outside party might make her see what you can't.
AITJ's the ultimatum as it stands is the best idea. You should add a third option. Agree to be fair now, go with me and the kids to a family therapist, or divorce. It could help her to see an outside perspective. It sounds like you're doing everything you can with Mark, and that's great. At 13, we realize the world isn't fair, and it sucks that's happening in his home, but acknowledging it will help him feel like he isn't crazy or wrong, which makes it easier to process. You're doing what you can. When you talk to Sarah, maybe try, I know this isn't your intention, but this is how it feels. Sarah obviously has issues accepting her fault in this, so if it's not framed like an accusation, it might help. I know you shouldn't have to, but it seems like you do if you want to save the family unit.
Before you consider divorce, try family therapy. There are therapists who will meet with the whole family and sometimes with individuals in order to help the entire family function better as a unit. Think of it like couples counseling, but for everyone. A therapist may be able to get your wife to see the impacts of her actions/inactions, as well as help you all understand where boundaries should be and what behaviors are age appropriate for each child. In the meantime, maybe try appealing to your wife's favoritism of Lily by pointing out how this dynamic will harm her in the mind run. If Lily isn't being shown how to handle situations with proper boundaries, then she's not going to be able to have healthy friendships or relationships when she grows up. I also wonder if Sarah runs over your boundaries sometimes and Lily sees and emulates that. If so, this is where you hold some responsibility for the situation. If you think this might be true, don't overcorrect, but start setting and enforcing small boundaries with both Sarah and Lily, and show Mark how to do the same. The change in dynamic will be hard for everyone, but keep at it and things will hopefully get better. This is also where having a family therapist would really benefit all of you. There is a free app called Covosis, which is a lovely way to find discreet support when dealing with a particularly difficult person. Consider checking it out. I wish you the best and hope that you are able to make positive changes for you, Mark, and Lily, regardless of whether Sarah is able to learn or change. You've got this.
So you're not in a good financial situation, but your wife can spend on herself and your daughter. Your daughter is behaving exactly like your wife. How can your son ever trust her and have a good relationship with her when she acts like that? Then his own mother agrees. Your wife is contributing to ruining the sibling relationship. If it doesn't get fixed, it's going to stay that way forever. Your wife can discipline both kids, but you're only allowed to discipline Mark. Your wife is also ruining the relationship between father and daughter. They are your kids. You need to step up and fight for your son to be happy, and that's ridiculous.
No, you are completely right, and good on you for sticking up for your son. When I was around his age, I had a little sister with the same age gap who was probably worse. When I would go out, she would search my room from top to bottom, find my diary, and read it in all kinds and report back to my mom. This continued with my mother allowing it as she was getting info on me, as she's a control freak. I wasn't even a bad kid up until I ended up leaving the family home and moving thousands of miles away to get away from them. As we got older, she would even search my browser history and go through private emails between me and my then partner and discuss the private nature of them with my mother. My mother was as bad, I couldn't even have a piece of mail or package come to the house without them opening it, or me having to open it in front of them. My mom used to read my diaries and actually tease or shame me along with my sister. I'd have loved somebody to stick up for me when I was younger.